This podcast is part of the Pod Syndicate family. For more criminally compelling shows, articles, and conversations, head to wearepodsyndicate.com.
Get the behind-the-scenes information on the breweries and beers you love with What's on Tap's Brewery Sessions.
What's on Tap podcast, and we are at the Baghaven Wild Ale Celebration.
Yes, and it's been freaking amazing. So we are 2/3 of the way through the festival at this point, and I've got to say, this has been a crazy impressive lineup of sour beers, and it really runs the gamut of wild ales, from everything from like the mild herbal kind of flavors to just like, I think this beer is pulling the enamel off of my teeth.
Yes,
sour.
Pure acetone.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're really good brewers.
Yeah.
Really good beers. It's interesting to see the difference between the first and the second sessions, where the first was so jam-packed with people you couldn't even move or breathe.
Yeah.
And they fixed everything between the first and the second session. They moved the tables around, they increased everything. So it's been a pleasure during the second session, and I think the third session will be good as well.
Yeah, I think so too. And so to give you an example of the breweries that are here, it's Booker Rider, it's Speciation, it's the Rare Barrel, it's Casey Brewing, it's Transient,
Tired Hands.
I mean,
Funk Factory, Fonta Flora,
Second Shift. I mean, just every amazing brewery you can think of in the U.S. is here today, and they're all doing sour beers.
Yes.
So I got to admit, after 60, 70 sour beers per session, oh man, I am craving an IPA or a lager
or an Imperial Stout.
Imperial Stout, oh, by far. Because, I mean, it's just so many sour beers. And while I really love the idea of running the gamut of what's possible within a sour or wild ale festival, to be fair, this is not a sour festival, it's a wild ale festival.
That's true.
So it's only saisons and farmhouse beers and wild fermentation, those style beers. So it's not like a sour IPA or a sour lager or other, sour beers. It's truly a wild ale, wild fermentation kind of beers. So that's why you see Lindemann and Boone and Oud Bissel here as well. So you've got kind of like the gamut of the established, like the old guard and the new guard at the same time.
Definitely.
And it's been a lot of fun to try.
Yes.
So what's been your highlight so far of the festival?
Our many interviews.
Okay, outside of the many interviews, what's been your highlight of the breweries? So what's the brewery you didn't know of that you're now is on your radar?
I'm stalling because the name eludes me. Bonkoft.
I would say Bonkoft is the...
Is it called Bonkoft?
Yeah, Bokonft or something like that.
Bookfont?
Something like that, yeah.
Busk.
Right. So
we're the worst people ever.
So what they are, is there a Danish...
No, they're American.
Oh, they're American?
Belgian.
All right. So they're a Belgian lambic mixer, much in the vein of Booker Rider. So they just take gueuze and they just blend them. So they're a blendery. They don't actually produce their own beers. And they've been the real hit of the festival. They have sold out every session so far. So it's always been really exciting to see what they've been putting up. I would say Casey has also been another, and Plan B.
Yes.
Those have been the two breweries that I didn't know of that have been doing the most interesting beers and unexpected things that I will definitely have them on my radar going forward.
Definitely.
Because we know Transient, we know Tired Hands, we know Fonta Flora, we know Funk Factory. So I'm always excited to find something new that I did not expect. But there's also the South American beers.
Juguetos Perdidos.
Yes, and what was the other one?
I can't see it from here, and I don't remember it.
Yeah, right. So there's 2 South American sour beer producers as well, or wild ale producers as well. So it's nice to see that it's not just America and Europe that's being represented here.
Exactly. And one from the UK, Burning Sky.
Yeah, Burning Sky. And they've been one of my favorites. I mean, I loved Burning Sky before.
Yeah.
But I gotta say that this just like doubled down on how much I enjoyed the Burning Sky. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Hope you enjoy the interviews we have lined up.
yeah, so we have 2 episodes coming forward of interviews. 3.
We'll see how many we go. We have a lot of interviews.
We'll see how many I feel like getting together.
Yes.
So there's at least 2 episodes coming up of from the Wild Ale Beer Festival, and I think that you guys are going to really enjoy them because it really runs the gamut on what's happening in the the Wild Ale beer world, and especially with the Baghaven celebration itself. So I would love to hear your feedback. Love to find out what you think about that, and what's your favorite wild ale that you can buy.
Yeah.
How do you feel about wild ales?
Let us know.
Yep. So enjoy.
Keep drinking, you dum-dums.
All right, it's Ehren from Baghaven. Finally, we're catching up with you.
Yeah.
This is really exciting to have you on the show. You are kind of the grandmaster of this experience. Tell us about what inspired you to want to put on a Wild Ale Festival.
Well, first of all, I don't know if I'm necessarily the grandmaster. I just
Those are our words, not yours.
I know you're the puppeteer
There's a
pulling
lot-
all of it together.
there's a lot of people that put this event together, so I'd like to make sure that they get the credit they do. Daniel and Goodwin from McKellar and Baghaven. But anyway, what inspired me, I've always wanted to do something like this, to invite a group of brewers together that kind of exemplified in my mind what this style is all about. And I'm in a position now where I was able to do this and actually make it a reality. So this is just something I've wanted to do for a long time at a lot of different breweries I've worked at. But here we are in Denmark, at a lot of places, because I come from the U.S., you know.
Where are you from in the U.S.?
I was originally born in St. Louis, Missouri, and I moved here I was living in San Diego.
All right. You know, we actually have talked to
Second shift.
Second Shift earlier
just
today.
interviewed.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're good friends of mine.
Yeah. So, what? How long have you been working at Baghaven?
It's been almost two and a half years, almost 3 years.
So almost from the inception then.
I started it with McKellar. Well,
Yeah.
it was built, but I walked in the front door and the day it opened. So
Yeah, it's like it's been around 3. I couldn't remember if it was 3 or 4 years, but yeah, I mean it's
for events and stuff. But we released our first beer in January of 2018.
wow. So that's honestly, it feels like you guys have been around for forever,
It
but
does feel like longer. Yeah, it does.
yeah, it's only like 2 years.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean,
this is what we've accomplished in 2 years.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Everyone we've talked to so far has been super happy about the festival, the attendance, the mood, and the vibe. So you're doing something really right.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
I hope you feel that as well. Now,
Absolutely.
Some hours in.
Absolutely. There's always small places for improvement, but overall it's perfect. I mean, really.
I remember when Baghaven first opened, it was just like McKellar's doing sour beers. I mean, what's that about? It was just kind of like out in the middle of nowhere, and it was kind of like, can you even get there? Do they even sell beer? What's happening out there?
Yeah, the first half year I couldn't. If someone had asked me to point it out on a map, I wouldn't have been able to.
Can you now?
Yeah, of course.
That was a destination spot. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, it is.
The area is definitely an interesting area, as you probably saw on your way in.
Yeah. I'm sure people are hating you for raising the rents in the area.
Not I don't think so.
You don't think so? I mean, no one knew what.
It's not. We're not raising the rent. We're a very small overall in this area. You know.
Yeah, but your influence is massive. I mean, come on, Broaden and Build wouldn't be there if you guys weren't there, probably. I mean, the food court scene that's popping around you is massive. That you guys have definitely influenced. I mean, these are things. So like when McKellar enters a space, I mean, they are not like innocuous. They bring a presence to the area, and I mean, there is a cachet to that as well.
Sure, but to be fair, with our area, like you say, with Broaden and Build, like actually a lot of the development of the area can be attributed to Matt Orlando, who started and owns a Mass restaurant and also owns Broaden and Build. So he was out on this island way before we were, and he saw potential in it. So I think we have an advantageous place on the harbor, and we were lucky to get that on the island, which is beautiful in the summertime. But I mean, it was a collective effort to bring the area where it is, and there's a lot of room to grow in this area. So, you know, we're a small cog in the wheel of the development of this area, and we're happy to be here, and we've really embraced the area that we're in. But I don't think it's necessarily 100% our doing. You know, there was a pioneer, and I would give that credit to Matt for sure.
How we get it.
Yeah. Every time I come out to Baghaven, man, you are working. You are like in there doing stuff. I mean, it's quite impressive to see, because I've been to a lot of breweries, and I don't always feel like this is a working space. But I've seen you in there like scrubbing tanks and moving barrels and doing things like every time I've been in the Baghaven establishment. So, I mean, it feels like it's a living, breathing, working environment.
It is.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, you're sitting right next to a stack of barrel. It is a production environment to a certain extent. We're very small.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and of course we're working because beer's not going to make itself.
It's very true.
No, we agree, but we've been to brew pubs that feels like just pubs.
Yeah. Like it's a front. Whereas we're at a back hop, and I kind of feel like I'm drinking beer, but I'm kind of in the way actually here, because you guys have, like, you're doing work here, and I'm like a spectator, like, look at the goats over there, like, doing things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's always impressive to come into Baghaven. And how do you see it growing or expanding in the future?
Well, we just built the Blenderia, which is an additional production space. So we literally doubled our capacity in oak. So we want to go from being like really small to like small. And I think that's kind of where at this point where we see it being is we want it to be where we are, so or where it's going, and I don't think that we need to be any bigger, or we want to be able to supply our market here, which is Copenhagen, with beer, and then some limited stuff abroad. But I mean, the goal's never been to produce a lot of beer.
Yeah. There's a perfect size to be.
Yeah, and we have to focus on that, because we want to use the best available ingredients for the beers that we're making, and I think if we get any bigger than we are now, we'll take a pretty serious hit in quality. Unless I can figure out a better way to make beer. So we're at a comfortable level after the expansion at the Blenderia, and now we just have to keep our heads down and make beer.
Yeah. I tried the Pesha version 2 today, and I got to say, wow, that is incredible. I mean, the level of peach and apricot flavor that you brought forth in that beer is just I literally felt like I was eating a peach, and with the skins and the meat of the fruit, and it was a real experience. How do you bring forth something like that?
Like the Pantao?
Yeah.
How do I? What, are you asking how I do it?
Right, like so like I mean, there's beers that have peach in them, but like when I drink that beer, it's like an experience. So like I've eaten a peach before, and I grew up in a part of America that grew peaches, so I'm really familiar with like the essence of the different layers of eating a peach, you know, or you know, like when you think about eating a fruit, there's actually like there's the rind, and then there's the flesh, and then there's the next to the seeds or whatever, or the pit. And when I tried that beer today, I felt like I'm getting all of these different levels of experience in this one beer. So what are you doing to kind of bring forth that kind of experience?
Well, so the concept behind that beer is to definitely make it so you get this feeling of eating a fresh peach. So I'm glad that we accomplished that for you. What I do is just use good fruit.
So the secret is basically peaches.
Peaches, yes.
Peaches, yeah. I mean, that makes a great peach beer. You have to have the right blend of beer. I don't know how other people are making their peach beer, but I just do it the way I do it, and it involves great fresh white peaches.
It's honestly, it's amazing. So what inspires you? Like what fruit do you look at and go, that's what I want to make a beer from?
Oh, well, I want to make beers with fruit that I don't know if I have an answer for that, to be honest with you.
That's okay.
That's fine.
I like to experiment, and sometimes it gets put into the production of our beers, and sometimes it doesn't. I don't know. I like to make beers I like to drink. I like fruits. So we do it.
Is there a fruit you've tried but not yet succeeded with?
Yeah.
Oh, what's the mystical danger fruit?
So we've actually put a beer into production that I think I can do better in. But that being said, it's still, I think people say they really enjoy it, but I see
potential,
little flaws in it. So I think we can do better with blueberries. We grow a lot of blueberries in Denmark, and I don't think I quite hit the nail on the head. Although I did a lot of trials with blueberries, and then when I put the main beer in production, I was happy with the way it. So I need to experiment more with blueberries, I think.
Then we're looking forward to future blends.
Yeah, and I haven't really gone out of my way to buy blueberries since that, so we'll see where it goes. We need to figure that one out.
So what inspires you?
Well, like I said, I mean, I like to make beers I like to drink. I don't have a lot. No, I don't wake up in the morning and go, oh, this is the way it is.
You're like, rhubarb peach, we're gonna fucking do this today.
I became a brewer because I was a home brewer, and then I really wanted to work in the beer business, so I volunteered here, and then gradually over the course of the last 10 years worked my way into where I am today, and I was initially working at a brewery that made clean beers, and I thought that making wild beers was a challenge. And I like challenges. I like refining things. I like to try to think about it and go at. And so these types of beers these types meaning wild ales, I was able to even like really challenge myself. And then I just kind of became obsessed in a way, and then here I am. I don't know. I don't wake up and then be like, I look up to the gods and say, oh, this is really what's I like what I do, and that seems to inspire me into doing it, I suppose.
You know,
That's a great answer.
I think it's a beautiful answer, and I really appreciate your approach to brewing and how you envision things. Because quite honestly, I am a big fan of Baghaven. I think you guys are doing amazing stuff. I can't wait to see where you go from here. I feel like this is just the beginning of a long journey, and honestly, this Wild Ale Festival is a tremendous success.
Thank you.
And I think that the turnout has been incredible.
Not too bad.
Not too bad at all.
Not too
Not
bad
too
for
bad
the
at
first
all.
time. We're happy. I hope you're happy.
I'm very happy.
You know, and as far as the business and the beers and everything, like, really, this is actually part of what inspires me, is to be able to make beers that inspire people enough to come and drink them. You know, that is a huge motivation. So I'm glad that it's working and people really seem receptive to it in general. And then this is a proof that is actually happening, and makes me very, very, very proud.
You should be.
Well, I'm very excited for next year.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, already. It's only night one.
It's like this feels like this is the litmus test. Like, can we do a sour beer festival? Will people turn up for it? The answer is overwhelmingly yes.
Already now we can say yes. And we did talk to Daniel earlier, and he's already kind of hinting to next year, like, we won't do just one, and that's good to hear.
Yeah. So it's all just, we'll see how it pans out. I don't know. I don't know any more than that. The fact that we did it one time alone is actually like pretty good for me, and I'd love to do it again. And if it works, it works. So
Yeah.
next year is hard to think about because we're only 3/4 away from the first night of the first year. But don't doubt it that we are thinking about it, but we wanted to see how this is going, and it seems to be well.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your time. I
Yes,
really appreciate it.
of course.
Just glad to catch up with you.
Thank you
and,
for having
talking
me.
about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we look forward to talking with you in the future as well.
Absolutely.
I'm drinking
Thanks.
more Baghaven beers.
So you're just gonna ask me questions?
We're just going to ask you questions.
Hell yeah.
Starting with, what's your name?
Mitch Ermatinger from Speciation Artisan Ales.
All right. And welcome to Copenhagen. Is this your first time here, or
This is my third time here in the last year.
in the last year? Wow. So MBCC.
Yeah, and then
And
we
then-
just did a tap takeover this time last year at like 2 McKellar bars.
Okay.
Yep.
And so now you're here for this event.
Yeah.
So what do you think so far?
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah, it's awesome.
So are there a lot of wild ale festivals in the U.S.?
Yeah. Yep. That's
Yeah?
primarily what we do is like sour beer, wild ale festivals.
All right.
Yep.
And where are you based again?
We're based in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Okay, that's interesting. Like, the beer scene in Michigan is pretty diverse, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's a really good scene. It has a really strong culture. I feel like we're a little bit behind in terms of like making progressive stuff.
Yeah.
But we have good quality, so and a lot of volume.
When I think of the Great Lakes beer scene, I always think Illinois. But
Yeah.
I mean, Michigan is like
Bell's-
right there, man.
Bell's
They're doing
founders.
a lot of great stuff.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
interesting
Bell's
to hear you say that because we think of Speciation as cutting edge,
Yeah.
experimental,
I mean,
fun, amazing stuff.
There are breweries that are doing cutting edge stuff like Transient and Homes and us, and there's lots of small breweries doing really cool stuff. But overall, like, we're just a little behind. We're like 1 year behind the rest of the country
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
as a state.
All right, the state. All right.
It's not a bad thing.
No.
Because it means that there's room to do cool stuff. It's not
Well,
a
I
bad
mean,
thing at
it's-
all.
I mean, it's kind of like Xbox, PlayStation. It's like who comes out first. Well, then we're gonna take what they did and just kind of make it a little bit better.
I don't even
Yeah.
say that to be like negative about it. It's not a bad thing at all.
We get it.
Yeah.
So what do you think of this festival?
It's crazy. It's like such a cool atmosphere. I don't know. I always love beer festivals like this because I know most of these people in this little
Yeah,
area.
look around. I'm kind of like, how do you not know everyone
Yeah,
here?
so
I mean, it's just
especially at an all sour festival, it's like
Yeah.
we've all like met each other multiple times before. So yeah, being next to Jay, we don't get to see each other very often.
Well, he's in California.
Jay from the Rare Barrel, like we see each other like 3 times a year, but it's really nice to be like next to him and be able to just like talk to him all session. It's a lot of fun. Yeah.
So, what made you guys want to do sour beers? I mean, that's kind of a weird thing to do in America.
Yeah.
Especially as early as you guys got started in this.
I've been brewing sour beer just like at home and professionally for 11 or 12 years now. At home, it was primarily what I made just because I would like to drink it, but I couldn't really afford to buy it all the time. And then I started working for a brewery in Denver called Former Future, which then changed their name to Black Project. So I was their original brewer back before they were even Black Project. So I really cut my teeth like brewing sour beer professionally at Black Project.
All right.
And then I knew from before I was hired, I knew I was going to start a brewery. But I didn't know it was going to be a sour brewery until like halfway through my time there. And that's when I was like, oh, I should do this. I should make sour because it's the most fun kind of beer to make. So
what inspires you when it comes to brewing sour beers?
I guess in general, I love the intense diversity of like every batch you make is going to be different regardless of what you do.
Yeah.
Just because of wild cultures. So.
Well, I do love that you can have like the same beer, but this is batch 1, this is
they're all
batch
different.
50, and there can be like theoretically kind of the same,
Yeah,
but
they're going to be slightly
completely
different.
I love sour verticals.
Yeah.
They are interesting.
It's so interesting because it's not the same. You tweak it constantly, so it's like not the same. And just like the cultures are going to make different beers. So I love that, and I love it's kind of the Wild West, and you can do whatever the hell you want. Like you can add tons of fruits and adjuncts, and there's a huge range of what kind of flavors you can add to a sour beer, all the way from like more umami flavors to like sweet and everything in between. So it's like there's a massive range of flavors you can pack into a sour beer. And sour beers, like, it sounds kind of off-putting, but really the flavors are very familiar to most people, especially Americans, I think. But they're familiar. Like everybody eats like sour candy and like that kind of stuff, and lemonade and soda.
What's so great here is like when you start trying sour beers, you realize like there's like the sour aggressive, like sour, like lip, like teeth crunching sour,
enamel ripping sour,
and then there's like the mellow, comforting kind of sour.
We do the whole range. We have some enamel ripping stuff because that's what people ask for sometimes, but we've been trying to push more and more towards the softer acidity.
I gotta admit, like when I'm at a sour beer festival, I really appreciate the sour acidity for sure.
For sure, yeah.
It's like you had 2 or 3, you're like just the enamel ripping, you're like, ugh, I think I might be done. And then like the third, you're like, oh yeah, that's the one that I need. Yeah.
So remind us, what did you pour in our glasses?
So you have Gene Flow. This is a stainless sour. It's about 3 months in stainless. Mixed culture with just our house cultures. And then we added cranberry, hibiscus, cinnamon, orange zest, and
hibiscus,
salt.
that's the one that I'm going to
cinnamon is the one I've been looking for when I've been tasting it.
Cinnamon
and salt.
Hibiscus is the thing I'm kind of like, there's a flavor I can't quite place. Hibiscus, that's it.
It's tough there's a lot of ingredients in this beer, so it's tough to like balance them all out. So we have tanks with manways on top, and we added all the ingredients in bags.
Yeah.
So we basically taste, especially with the cinnamon, we taste it until it's the level that we like, and then we leave it in for one more day, and then we take it out. Because it's going to fade a little bit through like processing.
Long-term dry fruiting.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, it's like, I don't even know what to call it.
I love it.
We're going for a specific flavor profile, and we can kind of target that by adding it in mesh bags.
Really, really good.
I really like this beer. It's very salivating.
Yeah, the salt. We actually we salt most of our fruited beers to make that fruit flavor pop more.
Well, because salt is a flavor enhancer, but if used properly, it just makes everything open up and explode.
Exactly.
You know, if you use too much, it's like, ugh, man, they really kind of went crazy with sea salt here.
Yeah, it's like eating a McDonald's French fry or something like that. Like,
No, but you're nailing it with your beers.
thank you.
I hope you know that there's hype around your name, around Speciation ales in this part of Europe.
It's kind of crazy to hear that, but it's also great because I like coming here. So just keep that hype up so
And
that
then
I
you'll
can
keep getting invited back.
Yeah, so I can keep coming back because I really like taking trips here.
Will we see you at NBCC?
Yeah, we'll be at MBACC.
Wonderful. I
Yep.
can't wait for that.
And we're bringing wine to that too. So
Oh, nice.
we started
NBCC
making
has
natural
really
wine.
evolved and changed.
Yeah.
And,
I don't know if I'm allowed to, but I told him that I'm bringing wine. So.
okay. You know what? I mean, they have their own wineries here. They've been really promoting wine and spirits through McKellar, so
Yeah.
I don't think it'll be a problem. I think
We
that-
just started making natural wine and really like it. It just ties in together with what we're doing already so well that we just decided to go on with that project too. So
That's
It
really
sounds great.
cool.
yeah, it's just spontaneously fermented grapes. Like
I know. And natural
how
wines,
can you go wrong with that?
and they've been a real trend here in Scandinavia
Yeah,
for
that's
the past
what, I
couple
mean.
of years.
That's
so.
where I got hooked on it. Was in Amsterdam. So Amsterdam and Copenhagen. Yeah,
I can't wait.
yeah.
Well, thank you for your time.
Of course.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And hopefully we can catch up at NBCC this year.
Yeah, sounds good.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Try to be international, right?
All right, so here today we're with the Rare Barrel and the one and the only Sour Hour, Jay. I can't tell you how excited I am to talk to you because I am a fan of the Sour Hour. I've been listening for the last couple of years, and wow. So we interviewed, I don't remember who it was at the NBCC Festival from last year, but he wasn't associated with the podcast, and I was really disappointed. So now I'm like, Jay's here, awesome!
So this interview shouldn't be around sour beers or the festival. It should be only around podcast technique, right?
Yeah.
No. We're going to talk about sour beers.
Let's just keep going with the compliments. the
Yeah.
whole time.
So Rare Barrel makes amazing beers.
Oh, thank
They
you.
do.
Go on.
You knew that already.
No, I've always been super impressed with Rare Barrel, and I've been very excited. And I think that last year was your first year at NBCC.
No, actually, we've been coming for, I think, the last 3 years, and
3
we'll
years.
be back again this year.
Okay, I don't know how I missed you before that, but
Yeah.
I
Two,
just-
or, 2 or 3 years. Yeah.
Okay. But no, I really enjoyed what you guys have brought the past couple of years, and you've really been kind of blazing a trail in sour beers and kind of leading the way, not just with like what you've been doing, but also offering advice and technique and critique on sour beers.
Yeah, I appreciate all the kind words. And let me just say, this podcast, even though we're standing in the middle of a busy beer festival, this is still more professional than ours. I gotta admit.
Okay. I am recording on my phone,
Yeah,
so
and that's it. Yeah. So,
Don't give away our secrets to the listeners, man.
yeah. In case you can't tell by the audio. But no, I appreciate it. I'll take one exception though. I think. You're saying we're blazing a trail, and I disagreed until you said when it comes to like sharing information. I think we are doing that. I think we're on we make a whole beer series called On the Shoulders of Giants, where we realize we have a lot of people to thank for our fortunate position as a craft brewer, as a sour brewer in the United States, especially in the Bay Area where we are in California. But we have been lucky enough to be a part of, I think, a new movement in sour beer to be more sharing and talk to fellow brewers. Not that it didn't happen before, but especially with the power of the internet and podcasts, it's really exploded to where when we started the Rare Barrel, I remember I had this big notebook. I read every article. I read every book. I recorded I recorded manually by note taking every conversation I've ever had with like a good sour brewer. And now it's like worthless because you have Milk the Funk, you have Michael Tonsmeyer's book, you have podcasts, but you needed it at that point.
yeah. But I mean, at the same time, people do call into your show or write into your show with questions, and you guys do provide really salient points and really salient feedback.
You say silly or salient?
Salient,
Okay.
salient, yeah. Well, I mean, maybe a little bit of both, there's always a bit of humor and tongue-in-cheek, advice in that. But I mean, when you get right down to it, you guys are in touch with the sour beer scene, and you do have a lot of really salient points that you provide. I mean, I've learned a tremendous amount from listening to your show.
Oh, great.
And I'm not even a brewer, and I'm just like, oh my God, I didn't understand what goes into this and the processes, and it's a real knowledge log from what's out there.
Yeah, well, it's kind of a racket. I mean, most of what we do is just listen to the people we have on the show.
Yeah.
And just repeat it back. So I think, what Scott and I contribute is one part, but we are lucky to have, really, really amazing guests.
You do. Some of your guests, I'm kind of like, holy crap.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I saw the guy you had on before me. Your guys' guests are not that good.
Oh, well.
Sorry, Mitch.
It's low-hanging fruit here.
I'm just joking. We had Mitch on our show, too. But, no, we've been lucky enough to have, really some of the best sour brewers in the world.
Yeah.
And that's been such a thrill for me. And I've always justified the existence of the podcast is I already have these conversations. And the only thing is, I won't be able to really, go up to ask Jean Benoit without, peeing my pants, hey, can I talk to you for an hour?
Yeah.
He would say no. Not that he's very generous with his time, but the real luminaries of sour beer making, the podcast is a very nice excuse to have that conversation for myself.
I hate to tell you this, but you guys are crawling into luminaries of sour beer making. You are pushing some edges here in the world of sour beer making that no one else is.
I'll never think of us that way, but thank you.
You should come to Europe more often because you are thoroughly hyped here.
Oh, well, thank you. We've had a great response here at the McKellar Fest, and it is amazing. And the podcast has been a big part of our popularity, across the United States and internationally. It's really gotten our awareness out there, and I'm always thrilled to meet people who listen to the podcast out and about. A guy earlier today, this is a weird, humble brag, but a guy earlier today was like, oh, can I have your autograph? And I was like, oh, yeah, sure. But he didn't have anything cool to sign.
It was his penis, wasn't it?
Well,
you signed his penis.
That would have been way cooler than what I actually signed, which was a folded and forced blank sheet of paper. And I was like, are you just going to sketch over this and write yourself a check? Or, what's going on here? But, I love that, but it's also, it's very surreal and strange to talk about that it's gotten to that point.
That's the beauty of podcasting is you touch an international audience in ways that you don't even realize.
Yeah.
And
not you guys, but yeah.
Not us. Not us. We barely reach outside my mom's basement, so it's okay.
Yeah. Did you even press record on this or no?
Is it record? I don't think. What does that button do?
One time he didn't.
we had an hour and a half conversation. I went thank you very much.
No.
We'll talk to you later.
Yeah, you can't redo that.
No. The Sour Hour has become, I think, a real staple and a mainstay for craft brewers and sour brewers. And I've, like I said, learned a ton about craft brewing and sour brewing. And the interviews you have are with some of the most amazing brewers in the world. And when I think of amazing breweries in the U.S. that do sour beers, you guys come to the first of the list. You're just right there. And so while you are very humble in what you do, your footprint is expanding and you are influencing the world around you. And I thank you for that.
Well, I appreciate that. But like you said, it's just we're just trying to be good by association with those brewers that have been coming on the podcast. You go to Mount Rushmore and you take a selfie the right way, it looks like you're on that mountain too.
That's true.
So it's
we're gonna take that selfie later.
Yeah.
So what made you bring the beers that you brought to the festival?
Oh, I have no idea. I don't make those kinds of decisions.
Okay.
But no, well, we have a lot of exciting beers here. We're doing, fruited sour beers are obviously a big interest for everyone, but we're doing a lot more work with our farmers and fresh fruit. So we're excited to show that off a lot at this festival. so far the response has been great. You already have the strawberry beer, which
The
is,
strawberry is so good.
and I don't really like to talk about. I mean, I'm proud of our beers, but I won't say like, oh, they're the greatest. But I really love this strawberry beer. Those are very hard to do. And if you'll allow me to do a quick shout out to Cellar Maker Brewing Company in San Francisco.
So great.
They're like one of our best friends in craft beer and in life, and we completely copied our process for doing the strawberries from them. And we've been collaborators and friends for a long time, and their sour program and hoppy beers are thriving. So shout out to them for helping us make some great beers. Yeah.
Yeah, the unspoken third voice over here, she tried it and she went, oh, it tastes like smultron.
Yeah.
Which is like a wild strawberry flavor. So, like, the strawberry essence just
Spring beer.
it just came through in such an amazing way.
That sounds like that's good.
And we're trying the, what was the other beer?
Oh, it's Hello Yellow, so fresh yellow peaches and yellow nectarines. We're lucky in California to have amazing access to agriculture. I mean, we're known for the wine region, but it's all fruit really. So we're pretty spoiled.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
Both of these beers have been incredible.
Oh, thank you.
And what's nice is that they're sour, but they're not that enamel-rippingly sour. They're just really mellow and pleasant and easy to drink. And quite frankly, you kind of want to keep going back and have more and more of them.
That's a definite possibility.
Yeah, for sure.
But if I could, sorry to interrupt, but if I could just say one thing on the sour thing.
Yeah.
A big takeaway that we've had on our podcast is that, and many people in this room will attest to it, people who are just starting sour programs, especially non-traditional brewers, not so much like the Belgian lambic producers because they've been doing it for so long, it's such a different process.
Yeah.
But like a lot of American sour beer makers, they'll find in the beginning, okay, maybe their beer is not sour enough, and then they build up the culture and try and encourage it, and then it gets way too sour, and then they do everything in their power to slow it down. And I think if you talk to a lot of American brewers in here, they'll say, oh, our first couple years, the beer wasn't that sour, but it was good. Then years maybe 3 and 4, it was a little too sour, and then now we've got it dialed in.
Yeah.
We experience that too, and it's something we address all the time on the Sour Hour on the Brewing Network. And so it's a common thread. So I just say, if you have a beer that's too sour for you, don't give up on that brewery forever, because a lot of us are young and figuring it out. And I mean, especially if they listen to Sour Hour, they're definitely going to figure it out.
So how do you see the American sour beer scene against the traditional European lambic coolship, beer scene? So you can't call American beers lambics. You have to call them American Wild Ales, right?
I mean, you could, but you'd be ostracized.
Yeah,
so
yeah. I mean, everyone would hate you for that.
There's no actual law against it, but we try and be as respectful as possible. There's no real central governing body to say.
But it hasn't got that World Heritage qualifier yet.
Right.
Like, you can't make cognac outside the cognac region. You can't make champagne outside the champagne region. It becomes something different. And I think that beer has taken that nomenclature and really said, all right, if you're not making it in Belgium in this particular region, it's not a lambic, it's an American Wild Ale.
And I look at that with a massive silver lining. It's like, okay, they've done this, they pioneered it, let them have it. And I mean, no disrespect to either side, but everyone else can innovate. They can make minor tweaks and changes to the process that is traditional and great. But, innovation is about changing things over time. And if by law you have to have at least 30% wheat, and maybe that is not the best thing, and I'm not saying that it's not the best thing, I'm just saying, what if 15% oats is good, or, different varietals of wheat, or it's got to be raw wheat or malted wheat. I don't know. It's just we have the ability to take it in new directions, so let's embrace that. Who cares if we don't have the name? We have the ability to do anything with it that we want, and American brewers have done that, and worldwide, not just America.
Well, Martin, anything else?
No, I love your beers. That's all.
Thank you.
Jay, thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
And keep doing what you're doing. It's amazing and inspirational on so many levels.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you very
Cheers.
much.
Let's take a picture.
So we're here today with Plan B.
Plan B Farm Brewery, yeah.
And where are you based out of?
We're in Poughkeepsie, New York.
Poughkeepsie, New
Poughkeepsie,
York.
yeah.
All right, that's
Hudson Valley.
yeah, that's a bit of a different area than from the rest of these places.
It's true, yeah. There are a couple, I mean, there's half of us are probably from the States.
Yeah.
But we're kind of like peppered throughout the United States.
Oh, very much so. Yeah, yeah. I'm sorry. What was your name?
Evan.
Evan. All right. Yeah. So Evan. Yeah. Well, I mean, when we talk to people, it seems to be like Midwest, flyover states,
Yeah.
West Coast. Not a lot of East Coasters here.
No, there's us, there's Oxbow,
Yeah.
which is in Maine, Hill Farmstead, very famous, Vermont. Yeah, I don't know who else. I'm probably leaving somebody out that will be mad at me after they listen to your very popular
you're
beer
doing good.
podcast.
You're doing good representing.
Oh, okay.
Our
Yeah.
podcast is European, so they will just
nice.
they will just think, oh wow, cool American brewers,
Yeah.
sour beer. This is the coolest thing ever. Don't worry.
Yeah.
So what got you guys into sour beer making?
Well, we are a brewery that only uses ingredients. We have our own farm where we're growing ingredients.
Yeah.
A lot of the ingredients that go in the beer. And 7 years ago, we said we're going to make beer from a very specific place, right?
Yep.
And that was New York State originally, and now we've shrunk that radius down to our region, like the Hudson Valley, a lot of things grown on our farm. And when that started, I thought, what's the most expressive flavor of a region, a regionality, when it comes to beer, is that of fermentation,
Yeah.
yeast, all the many technicolors of the beer palate, you know, like acidity and funk and oak, tannin, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
So that drove, like, at the beginning, we didn't have very good resources. We had very young maltsters, very young hop growers. We were growing a lot ourselves, not knowing what we were doing. So in order to compete in a market where people have really cool hops and access to everything in the world, essentially, as a brewery, we decided, in us having a limitation self-imposed, we thought that fermentation is the thing that distinguishes us. And you know, it's like fermentation's like 70%, even of your New England IPAs with all the hops, fermentation's still like 70% of the chemical compounds that are produced in a beer. So it's, yeah, especially when you add acidity and things like that.
So Plan B for me is a quite new acquaintance in Europe. Like
You've had it before?
Yes,
Oh,
the
really?
last year in Malmö, Sweden.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
We have a small tap room that has actually had 2 or even 3 of your beers.
Oh, cool.
Oh yeah, I remember there was like oh, Plan B is going to be on tap. We're like, hell yeah, that's exciting because
The first time it was just cool new stuff, and then it was this is fun because
cool.
because you have a nice funky farminess to your farmhouse
Yeah,
beers.
and it's a house character. The yeast is mixed culture, yeast and bacteria built up from raw honey, from the honey on our farm, and the bees forage a 3-mile radius. So it's supposed to capture, you know, all the pollens from the respective plants. So
Yeah.
the idea is you know, whether you hate it or you love it, like the idea is, I like, you know, people open a beer or have a beer on draft and they say, oh, this is a Plan B beer. That's the greatest compliment for our principle or philosophy.
Definitely.
you do a lot of local foraging for flavors and components for your beers.
Yeah, aside from the bees foraging
Yeah.
in their respective way, like we've got a semi-wild farm, so we have about 5-6 acres that are used for rotating adjunct grain production. A lot of corn, because we're in the States. It's a native thing, and I grow these heirloom varieties of corn. But and we grow hops, and we have gardens that grow all herbs and stuff. But on top of that, there's a lot of the farm that is wild still, and we have seasonality, and I harvest all kinds of wild foraged herbs. We do a beer called Savage, which is only with blackberries, raspberries that are not cultivated, just stuff that I forage and pick on the farm, and it's one wine barrel that I work really hard to get to a point where it's slightly red. It's not like the big jammy, juicy things. But yeah, I do a lot of foraging on the farm.
Before we started recording, you said that the barn beer was a particular favorite. The one that
It's my
Stefan is
favorite,
holding.
Yeah.
It's the one you're holding, Stefan. And I think it has a really nice farm character.
Yeah, it's got a real funkiness to it. Yeah.
A little bit of everything. You know, it's the beer of the barn in the sense that its services are working. You know, like a farmhouse beer should, right? It's like a good farmhouse lemonade. The acidity's not too strong, but then the funk aspect is of our barn. You know, it smells like our barn, for better or worse. You know,
it smells great, man. It smells like an amazing smelling barn, I gotta say.
Well, you know, and there's also, you know, there's it's also got the most complexity, even though it's the thing that people overlook. It's a simple beer, but there is a hop presence, there's a tiny oak presence, there's acidity, there is that barn farm funk, there's softness from unmalted grains. Yikes. Yeah. Podcasting's a dangerous world, man.
You know, you never know what's going to happen.
Rogue podcast. Yeah, so it's got just a little bit of everything, the biscuits and the beans, as they say.
Yeah. No, it's an amazing beer. And I just see that there's a lot of complexity in there. And what seems like a really simple beer, but I mean, I think that's where you really find inspiration a lot of times. It's the simplicity.
Yeah, I mean, that's the most fun thing about, you know, it's easy to find big flavors. It's easy to find hit you over the head acidity.
I mean, you can always throw blackberries or raspberries or whatever.
Tons of hops and all that. You know, that's easy to gravitate towards and say, oh, I taste blackberries, I taste lactose, I taste hops, I taste these things. It's easy to do that. It's very hard and more rewarding to dissect a beer and be able to say, oh, I taste this tiny little malt. There's unmalted grain in this. There's, you know, these hops that are low alpha acid. They're like simple. They're being used to elevate the beer in a practical way. They're not supposed to overwhelm the beer. That kind of stuff it's a much harder path to.
So, what is it about the beers that you brought to the festival that what inspired you to bring these beers for the sessions?
Mikkel McKellar asked for 6 beers in kegs, and we only had 5 beers in kegs at the time. So it was whatever we have, and we brew very seasonally. Like tomorrow we have a beer with nasturtium, which is an edible flower, a peppery flower. It's pretty cool. We've got a beer with buckwheat honey and buckwheat. That's interesting. So they're just whatever we had around. The buckwheat actually I filled from I filled from a cask. It's a beer that hasn't been packaged yet. I was
great.
I got to figure out another beer, so we pulled off 5 gallons out of a whiskey cask.
All right, well, it's something to look forward to. We're here for all of the sessions, so we look forward to seeing what you bring for tomorrow.
Yeah. Who knows? It's like a roulette. They're just picking. McKellar's picking the beers. Yeah. So today we kind of both of our blonde, easier going beers.
It's a good start.
It's all aggro after this. We're going hardcore.
I'm looking forward to tomorrow, especially because these are really exceptional.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for bringing them to the festival. Evan, thank you for your time. Yeah, really appreciate it. And
cheers.
Yeah, cheers.
This podcast is part of the Pod Syndicate family. For more criminally compelling shows, articles, and conversations, head to wearepodsyndicate.com.